All right, we got a Metal Fest recap. We're gonna do everything. We're gonna do Milwaukee Metal Fest recap.
Okay.
Because it's Sunday night. We're gonna talk about our channels.
Okay.
And yeah, we're gonna go over the whole thing. What we can do better next year.
Okay.
What you want to suggest? Band wise, layout wise.
Yep.
I'm open to any and all constructive criticism.
Okay.
And yeah, happy to have you here. I think the Hell's Headbangers booth did pretty good. It looked pretty rocking.
Yeah, we did okay. So starting with that, I guess we'll start there. I didn't know if you wanted to start with criticism and how I found out about you and shit, but we'll start with the Hell's Headbangers booth. So we definitely didn't do as well as like Maryland Death Fest. It was definitely a slight disappointment in sales, but we didn't know what to expect because coming here, when you do the math, the only type of like band that says kind of like Hell's Headbangers that play this entire thing, even though there was other bands I liked, but the only one was Revenge. So with that being said, it's not too shocking. So for example, other bands that played this weekend that I do like is like Malignancy, Dying Fetus, Obituary, but those aren't like, yes, Hell's Headbangers fans, some of them will like that, but Dying Fetus is somewhat a band that gets kind of disrespected now in the underground. I think a little bit unfairly so on their end, but also because they've gotten so big.
Yeah.
And the thing is, and I've busted their balls on my channel and that crowd, is because some of the, I guess you want to call them elitists or diehards, or guys that have been there since the early roots of the when bands were doing their demos and shit, Dying Fetus draws this crowd where it's this fucking flat brim hats, sidewards caps, fucking baggy jerseys, baggy pants, and it's kind of like, what the fuck, man, this isn't death metal. Now, where I think the discredit from fans comes up is they associate the band with them. I'm like, oh, dude, John looks metal to me, and so the other guys, and even back in the day, they were getting this, even in the early 2000s, with Destroy the Opposition, which I think is a fantastic record. They were getting it then. I'm like, you looked at Sparky, you looked at Jason and John, they looked metal, but what they intertwine with it is the fan base. And they're like, oh, this is so fucking annoying. So some people in our scene will hate on them for that reason. And I tell people on the channel, I was like, that's a little unfair though, dude. I was like, because if you're discrediting their whole catalog.
What age does that kick in though? Because I feel like when I first got into it, before I knew elitist people who were real, like, exclusive and really gatekeeperish, I feel like say when Heartwork came out.
Sure. Oh yeah, ball
dudes in my school were bombed.
Yeah.
And then like Swan Song was like the fucking final nail in the coffin. Now, right? People are like, Swan Song's pretty good.
Dude, that's so goddamn funny you say that. For example, Carcass is one of my all-time favorite bands, and don't let me forget to talk to them about a business idea. Not just, let's get Carcass. I got a real idea. I actually talked about it on my channel before, too. But if anyone can make it happen, I think it's going to be you. When Carcass is one of my all-time favorite bands, right? The primo shit, they were not a death metal band. They were a gore grind band. They created gore grind. Recon Putrefaction is a pure gore grind record, and so is Symphony of the Sickness. By Necroticism, they started to go a little bit more death metal. They still had those grindy elements and the pathological lyrics in there and shit like that too. But I liked Swansong and Heartwork. I just thought they should have changed their name. So they should have changed their name to maybe the band called Heartwork or Carnal Forge or something like that, and it would have been more respected. I liked those albums as kind of like death and roll albums. Looking at them, it's not Carcass. Funny thing is, when I was liking those albums in the 90s, I didn't know a living fucking soul that liked those. Fast forward, or rewind probably about 8 years ago, Earache Records reissued their whole catalog and stuff, and we get everything in. We even got Swansong on. They did like pink vinyls and shit like that. I think we got like 50 of them in. They all sold out right away. I'm like, what? I'm like, now people like it. I was getting made fun of by like the Brian Baxters and shit like that of Regurgitation, the Cleveland scene. Like, oh, dude, that's the gay record. You can't like that.
Right.
You know what I mean? That's what they would say.
Yeah.
Their words, not mine. I'm just saying. That's what it was.
Do you think that kind of gatekeeper shit is kind of what's held the underground back? Because they're not willing to because it's so about the look of the other fan, or it's so about the look of the band. Like, even I remember when who was it? When Barney cut his hair.
Yeah.
That was like, and I thought, I don't give a fuck. Like, you care about another man's hair? Like, that's weird. Like, that's...
So yeah, for me with Barney, and I'm a big fan of a lot of Napalm Death stuff. I can't say I like everything. My favorite album by Napalm Death, Scum is easy to say, and that is probably it, but honestly, the one I listen to the most is Enemy in the Music Business, which was their comeback record, because they had those junk 90 albums where I'm like, what, this crap is horrible. and then they switched over to playing grindcore again, fast, brutal grindcore on Enemy of the Music Business, and they finally put the old logo back on there.
Yeah, yeah.
And like I think one of the greatest Napalm Death songs ever written is Necessary Evil, and that's on Enemy of the Music Business. But the thing with Varney, seeing him, the hair, that didn't bother me as much. I wouldn't say it bothered me. I was like, what's this dude doing? He had the most ridiculous shorts on stage I've ever seen in my life. They're like rammed up to his head like this. I was like, do what you want, dude. I don't care. I was like, but it looks kind of silly. They're just not, they're just helping you out. Just doesn't look flattering.
As you're saying that, I'm like, wait, we got so ahead of ourselves because we should give some context. We're so like deep in this now because you do your channel and I do my podcast, and I, have been so deep in Milwaukee Metal Fest world for 5 months. I should start just to give everybody, because we're going to put this both on our channels, I should start to give people context because people started sending me your YouTube channel, your video, and I thought the video was fair. I like the title was funny.
Which one did you see? Because I got mentioned a few. I'll be honest, I got you and Garza mixed up, Chris Garza, and I met him. Very nice guy.
Okay.
You know Chris, right?
Yeah. He jammed with me on the Thursday.
So I got you guys mixed up. The reason I got you guys mixed up was because I saw both of your podcasts with Glenn Benton.
Okay.
That's how I saw. That's how I was like Garza Jasta kind of jives. I'm like, so I'd kind of bust both of your balls because people would ask me, but I don't know if you notice on my channel, people ask me questions.
Yeah.
And sometimes I don't proof anything. I just go over and I answer it there. And some guys are like, well, you said this and this is false, or that's not so true, or you're going a little hard. So I'm going off the information that I knew. Yeah. So my first video that I remember talking about you was somebody asked like, hey J-dawg, what do you think of Jamey Jasta from Hatebreed? He's doing the Milwaukee Metal Fest bottom.
That's the one they sent me.
And I was like, well, first off, I don't know who that is. I was like, I know who Hatebreed is. I never really officially listened to it. I just assumed it's hardcore music, and I remember being in the 90s popular. I was in high school, and I wasn't a hardcore guy, so I just assumed this is crap I don't care about, right? So that's all I know. I was like, it's kind of weird that this guy's doing Milwaukee Metal. I was like, does this guy even like metal? I just assume he's a hardcore guy and probably listens to what people consider metal, like Cold Chamber, Limp Bizkit, Korn, and the shit that I can't stand. And
how old are you?
38.
Okay, yeah. See, and that's what I figured. So I'm 45. So
very young looking 45.
So thank you. So I noticed in the changing of the guard of the scene when guys who are slightly younger than me came in, especially pre-internet, it was like the history and any sort of knowledge of the previous scene was kind of lost. It was because we don't have record of it, but we know, because the collective consciousness of both the current metal scene and some of the underground, there are a lot of through lines and there's things we agree upon, like we were just laughing about the Heartwork thing.
Correct.
Because we're not so far apart that that's something we wouldn't both understand. But in the case of Milwaukee Metal Fest, with me, I played it in '98, came to it, then played it again, and I was booking like in the early '90s, like I booked Cannibal Corpse with the first tour with George. That's how I met George. Mm-hmm. Booked Immolation, booked Internal Bleeding, Pyrexia, and even the older bands too, mm-hmm. especially when the death metal scene was in a real lull. So it's like when people are sending me that, first of all, it was great because you got a couple thousand people causing a conversation.
Correct. That's
about it.
That shit. There's no such thing as bad publicity. That's why I liked getting conflict talking, because like whether we like it or not in this world, people like conflict. They like drama. So that causes conversation, and that gets people looking. And there's nothing negative with that, dude. I've had people make a channel. I mean, people make videos where, dude, there's this fucking thing. I don't even know this guy's channel. His channel's called, I'll give him a shout out. I think it's Jimmy on the Block or some shit. It's a rap battle. This guy, I have no idea who the fuck this guy is. Never even heard of him.
Okay.
And it was sent to me. It's on his YouTube channel, me versus Chris Barnes, and he's rapping and like Chris Barnes vocal. It's funny as fuck. I'm ripping on Chris Barnes, and Chris Barnes is making fun of me, completely making fun of me, making fun of Hell's Headbangers. Okay. I didn't take offense to it at all. I thought I was literally almost on the fucking ground laughing my ass off. I thought it was so fucking funny. I'm like, this is great. I was like, I wish more shit were like this. I was like, because you can say whatever you want about me. I don't care. I don't get offended. And not to mention, I have a slogan. Maybe we only do shirts. Is we need I say like Donald Trump said, let's make America great again. I say, let's make metal offensive again. Yeah, metal to me was meant to be offensive when you looked at stuff like Butchered at Birth. You looked at shirts like Jesus is a cunt. It's supposed to be offensive in all avenues, not taken too seriously like Norway and stuff. They're doing the church burnings, things like that. As long as you're not hurting anybody. I like to make things offensive because it's supposed to be extreme music for extreme people, like Morbid Angel says. And in my mind, if you get it, you get it. Dying fetus, kill your mother, rape your dog. it weeds out the weak minds that shouldn't belong in this anyways, because if you're offended by it, my question is, what the fuck are you doing here anyways? Because a lot of people at a young age, you got into this because it was rebellious, it was extreme, and it was brutal and over the top. That's what it's supposed to be. As long as you're not going out and hurting anybody, I think there is no limits. There's no boundaries. Just like all this censorship because, oh, so-and-so's a racist, which 99 times out of 100, not even fucking racist. It's just something stupid. They said, like, Marduk's racist? How the fuck is Marduk racist? They sing about Satan. It's Christ raping black metal. That's what it is. Where the fuck does race have to come in there? And not to mention on that, what's pissing me off about that is, why is it okay to hate on Christians and shit like that? But if you mention Jews, oh, now you're a racist.
Well, yesterday, like when we were talking about Destroyer 666, they were like a band that we had reached out to that would have caused some controversy. And to me, Revenge, you know, some of the people online, whatever, it's a perceived controversy, but we didn't get one negative comment. We didn't.
Because I think the people, what that is, I think it's people that are coming in and saying that shit. It's funny, Destroyer gets a little bit. I'm actually surprised that they don't. I said it on my channel. I'm surprised they don't get a little bit more than they actually do. Because on Unchain the Wolves, they have just one song. He's like, the swastika is turning. And the thing is, it's weird. I thought nothing of that, but just with the wimpification of today, that they don't get a little more controversy. But let's go back in the past. Slayer, Rain and Blood, talking about the Aryan blood, you know, and things like that. No one thought anything of it because we knew he was singing about a scary topic. We knew he wasn't promoting racism.
Yeah.
Why is it not looked at the same? I don't get it.
Do you feel like the viewers of your channel or the customers of Hell's Headbangers, do you feel like they're precious about that stuff, or are they more accepting of things that are extreme because it doesn't bother them because they know there's not real like malice behind it? Like
95% of them know and they get it. You get that 5% of dumbasses, and then we get confused. There's things online where Hell's Headbangers confuse a racism, which is fucking. It's offensive to me in that sense, and again, but let's be offensive, you know, and I don't get offended because anyone that knows me personally knows I'm the least racist person you'll ever fucking meet. Anyone that actually knows me knows that, and not to mention, oh, we're racist. Oh, okay. One of the bands on our fucking label is an all-black band, Black Death. It was an old heavy metal band from Cleveland. They were called Black Death because it was all black dudes. We released them.
Yeah.
Like, well, what? So how does that make sense?
Well, also when I reached out to you guys, I was thinking, just because you don't know me personally or you don't know my history with Milwaukee Metal Fest or booking death metal or putting out death metal records, you're 7 years removed from it, right? How old is your brother? Is he older than you?
Yeah, I'm the youngest of the three because it's three of us that own Hell's Headbangers. Okay. It was me, Eric, who you met. He's the oldest. So Eric's, he was born in 82, so he's 41.
Okay.
And then Chase is right above me. I think he's a year older than me, so he'd be 30. I think he's gonna be 40 this year. I think he's gonna be 40 this year.
And actually, it's funny because the way I heard of Hell's Bangers actually was right prior to seeing that video was because we had offered Nunslaughter, like we were talking about.
Yep.
And I think Don would be cool. I don't think he would care. You know, we offered them the festival, they turned it down, and they might have had. I know they were on a different festival, and that well, they might have had a radius clause. For anybody who doesn't know what the radius clause is, they don't want you playing, like Milwaukee doesn't want you playing Chicago doesn't want you playing Milwaukee. It's a normal business practice, and when you're negotiating, usually you send the first offer and then you get the revisions, or they get, you know, and with Don it was just a pass at first and we didn't know why. So we said, hey, maybe next year we'll try to get it closer to the mark, because we don't know, because again, when we were looking at not only just Hell's Headbangers, but other super credible like underground labels and underground bands, we're so far removed from that at this point where we're like, we want to make sure they're represented too, because that was a big part of the original spirit of Milwaukee Metal Fest. So I never took offense to that. I don't take anything personal at all because I read the 4 agreements every day. I don't know if you've ever seen that book, but it's one of the agreements is you don't take anything personal.
I don't either. Yeah, 100% no.
And it's a great thing to have. But also, I feel like everybody in underground metal has a right to have their voice heard if they're collectively doing something for the metal, for the scene, and for the music, and they're providing a service. And so, you know, going on your pages, you got people that are very happy they find a certain record that only you have, or they're very happy that you exposed them to a band they didn't know about. And back in the day, like 95, we played with like Napalm Death, At the Gates, Sick of It All, Hatebreed, Sub-Zero. That was a normal thing. It was just, we all played together. Just like I saw Malevolent Creation, Agnostic Front, Cannibal on one show. Or even here, Agnostic Front, Murphy's Law on the 92 lineup. There was hardcore in there. But as it got more violent and as it got more separated, it was totally normal for a guy like you to see what was going on and go, I don't want to be involved with that. And I don't take it personal because it was ignorant and violent. So when that started creeping in the scene, like, you know, Dying Fetus and Deathcore, what was the band with Debris that everybody, it became a meme? Awaken the Cadaver. You know, I saw, okay, yeah, there's a real division now. There's Job for a Cowboy and Suicide Silence in Whitechapel, and then there's, you know, Morbid Angel, fucking Pestilence, Pungent Stench, Suffocation, and like you're talking to a first day buyer of Effigy of the Forgotten, like, you know, 3 songs out of the gate, like right up to Infecting the Crypts, I'm like, this is one of the greatest records ever. But we would go to the shows, all the hardcore kids would go to Suffocation shows, death metal kids hated us. Through the years, and after like 7 tours with Slayer, opening for 6 Feet Under, opening for Obituary, opening for Napalm Death, going, you know, our first big tours with Entombed, the unity was there, but someone needs to lead that charge and someone needs to keep that going. Otherwise, it does get very gatekeeper-ish and people feel excluded and people start feeling separate. And I don't want that for the fest, so I figured, yeah, reach out to you and at least learn where you guys are coming from. And like with Nunslaughter, that was a tape that I traded. That was, I had splits. I'll send you the old flyers. I used to read the Grimoire and fucking write everybody in the back of it. So like, it's cool now that all that stuff's coming back. Mm-hmm. And I know it never technically went anywhere.
It was just much smaller.
Right.
Yeah.
But it's getting a bigger audience now because of your work and because of other people in the underground who are distributing this stuff all over the world and gaining a following and using social media to do so. So my thing is like, let's just try it. If it doesn't work, it doesn't work. But we shouldn't not try it because we don't understand or don't know each other.
No, yeah, I agree with all that. Yeah, no, my whole thing is, the separation, I think, it's not as bad as you probably think. For example, like guys like my age, pinch younger, or definitely older, yeah, they probably seem like the most jaded ones, but I think they're to the point where they're just kind of old and grumpy and like, I don't give a fuck, it doesn't really matter. It's just like, hey, if it's a worthwhile offer, I'll do it. A lot of it, what you see online now, and what I've noticed, it seems like the comments, I can just tell by some of the dumb shit they're saying. I was like, dude, you got to be 19 years old. And what it is, it's almost like a force thing. Like, I want to try to be what I call Cavalt, because the black metal guys like to spell the KV with a U with a fucking...
Oh, the true with the V.
Yeah, exactly. So the Cavalt guys, the ultra tough, they can't crack a fucking smile because they're too fucking evil. They're trying to outdo the next guy, and it's like, dude, come on, man. You're not fooling fucking anybody. You're miserable as fuck. No wonder you're listening to this crappy-ass depressive black metal, is because that's why you're depressed.
Do you notice that vibe was not here all weekend?
Yeah, no, you're not. Now, granted, I've got to give some of those guys credit. Those depressed, miserable people, they do buy records, though.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So they are, I guess, into it, but it's like the same time, I feel like a lot of that shit's forced because, yeah, you're allowed to like that stuff, but the thing is, like, come on, dude, you telling me you don't like anything outside of that? I find that a fucking pinch hard to believe. I think you're just trying to do that.
There was a guy out there with, the band's name is going to escape me right now. It's the French band.
Vlad Tepes, Mutilation, Belkatir.
Blados Nord.
Oh, my favorite.
He was trying so hard not to enjoy Suicidal, but when they hit the ST and the place is going fucking crazy.
What, the Blados Nord guy?
No, there was a guy, a fan.
Oh, a fan. I was gonna say. Okay.
And I call him the Impress Me Bro, where they're like, impress me, bro, and he was doing that to Suicidal, like, impress me, bro, and I thought, wow, it worked. They won the Blados Nord fan over, and I'm sure that was one of the bands who was like, oh, why is fucking Suicidal on here? It should be, you know, any one of those bands you just mentioned, who we would be totally open to book.
Yeah.
But just because I don't listen to them every day doesn't mean I don't respect what they're doing in their world, because when I go to Europe or I go to South America or I go to Australia and we play with those bands, they all come up to me and are like, yo, what's up? I actually used to write you back in the day in the snail mail. And so, and especially being here in '98 for Mayhem, I knew the impact of it. Like, I might not think it's the greatest production or the most intricate songwriting, and they probably think the same thing about Hatebreed, but I respect the game. And to fucking survive in a band like that and be still at the top of the game, like they could easily come headline.
Yeah.
Emperor, any of those bands. But that's like the most obvious thing. I want to create the next Mayhem or the next Emperor.
Tell you what, right now, and I already asked them for you. You want a band that's going to draw for sure, and that is that. They've been around for some time now, and we work with them. And I just messaged them today and asked if we would do it. We've had them at our fest, and they've done this. I don't even know if they've even done the States at all, other than our fest. They may have, so don't butcher me out there. I don't keep track of everything. Is Satanic Warmaster.
Yeah.
If you bring them now, I'll just tell you straight up what he said, and I don't think he cares. It's fucking Lori. He's like, I do it. He's like, as long as the jab restrictions are lifted. He's like, because he doesn't want to get. He's like, it's the only thing. He's like, they're lifted by then. So I do it.
That was the reason why we didn't get any of those bands, and I respect them for doing that. And I caught a lot of heat when I said that, especially when it was still sort of iffy. Like you could say that at certain times on YouTube and they delete your channel.
Yeah.
Saying anything about the mandates or saying anything, because those companies that provide that service are spending the most money on YouTube for ads. So they don't want anything going against that narrative. And when I saw fans dissing those bands because of that, I was like, wow, that's really fucked up. You're gonna ride with Big Pharma over fucking any one of these bands?
Yeah.
And I respect the bands that stood their ground. And let's be honest, none of these big entertainers that you saw get over the border, none of them got it.
Okay.
None of them.
Yeah.
So don't tell me Harry Styles got it. I don't know his business, but there was ways around it. It's like rules for thee, not for me.
Correct. Yeah.
And so that kind of pained me a little bit with only being able to have revenge. But as soon as we knew April 10th that mandate was lifted, got their visas.
Wait, so that's lifted for what? Canada?
Yeah, now they can come in from Canada, and we got a lot of last-minute people from Canada.
So for example, Satanic Warmaster's from Finland.
Yeah.
I asked him. He said to his knowledge, is that still? Do you know? Is that still?
No, they can come.
So wait, so that you know for sure
Yes.
from Finland, Finnish guys can come in here without the vaccine.
Yep.
I will tell them.
Yeah. No, and I think this is off to a good start because I always expected to take somewhat of like a net loss on this, and I knew that we were going to be so limited. Like yesterday when you and I were talking, I was really gung-ho for Sodom. And
Dude, it's so funny you say that though. When you said that, I mentioned. I'm just going to give credit where credit is due. You had Mulder play. Aaron mentioned that to me. I was like, who bands you think? I was talking about the Metal Threat in Chicago. I was like, if Hell's was to do a fucking another fest, like who's a band that you would think? Because I want to get different ideas. I know who I throw on my mind, and he said Sodom. I'm like, dude, I don't even know why the fuck I didn't think of that, because how many times have they even played the States ever? It's like
Very
minuscule.
few.
Like
Yeah.
most guys I know that are very old that even bought Persecution Mania and shit in '87. Most of those guys have never even seen them.
Yeah.
And they're still around. So I'm like, yeah, that will 100% draw. Because even myself, I would travel to go see Sodom. I was like, I will never see them again, ever.
Same. And I've seen them on multiple festivals that we played together in Germany, and they're always cool. And I'm always like, why don't we do something in the States?
Well, do you recall them ever playing in the 90s or anything in the U.S.?
Just canceling. But they played Milwaukee Metal Fest, but they ended, I think there was one year they were supposed to play Maryland Death Fest.
And they couldn't make it, yeah.
But then I think they did end up doing 1 year.
I think years ago, yeah. The last time, because it wasn't that long ago, I think we were even supposed to vend. They canceled last minute, and people were pissed.
Yeah. Well, also, Sodom doesn't get enough credit because if in the 90s when, and I branched out in the 90s, like I wasn't super close-minded. I checked out like the Nevermores and the John Bush era Anthrax, but I also liked like a lot of the Cleveland hardcore, a lot of the Florida death metal, and even the second wave of some of the thrash, like the not the big four.
You're talking about like Demolition Hammer, Morbid Saint, shit like that.
Yeah, and when I first had the idea to bring back Milwaukee Metal Fest, it was actually at Hellfest in France, and as I'm walking off stage, Demolition Hammer's there. We start talking, and I'm like, and I didn't pitch it to him there, but I registered it in my mind, and they were one of the first bands we offered, and it was Dismember and Overkill. That was my dream three for this year. And we would have had Dismember and Overkill if Manor Fest didn't already have them booked. And then I saw Psycho Vegas go down, we had a huge pop in tickets that day when that got canceled. Then I saw that Dominion Fest or Dominion or Domination in the UK that went down. Then I started getting worried. I was like, man, if Manor Fest goes down, I'm going to be so fucking mad that they had Dismember and Overkill. Sure enough, it got canceled, but we were too late to get Dismember the visas, and then we were already over budget. We couldn't get Overkill.
Well, with Dismember in mind, and I don't even think you figured it out yet. I was like, it's going to be problematic for Hells to make it here if you have it on the same weekend as Maryland Death Fest.
Yeah.
And the reason I said that is because supposedly, but I looked at their list just yesterday, it's not on there, but everybody on my channel is telling me they're doing it. Supposedly, Dismember is playing Maryland Death Fest next year.
Yeah.
And the thing is from what I understand, the reason they are is because they were supposed to play last year, and again, canceled, couldn't get in.
Yeah.
What the reason is they couldn't get in, I don't know. Is it because of the vaccine thing? Maybe it was that, and maybe now that you said it's lifted, that they could get in. But it's weird, you look on the list, Dismember is not on the list yet. But I heard it was just transferred.
You might be seeing the old ad, Matt. Would that happen to me where when I first looked at what's the other one that's announced? There's Maryland Death Fest is announced, and I want to say their headliner's Bloodbath.
Bloodbath is on there, I know that.
Okay.
I looked at the list. There's bands that I definitely would like to see, but another one that's not on the list, I'm surprised they didn't put it on there because they said they're in contact with them. My all-time number one band I want to see that I've never seen, that I've been a fan of since I was a kid, is Hemorrhage from Spain.
Okay, yeah.
And they are supposed, because they were supposed to play last year. They
Yeah.
couldn't get in, and I guess it's just same as Dismember, got transferred over.
Yeah.
And Luis Matoli's like, I'm 85% certain we're going to be playing. And I've even said, no matter what, when Hemorrhage gets back to the States, I mean, even if I got one leg, I'm fucking going.
Yeah.
Because not only do I want to see them, I want to bring a couple of my LPs, have them sign, and we've worked with Hemorrhage, and I want to do an interview with Leesma for my channel because
Cool.
I'm like a Hemorrhage super fucking fan.
Well, and you and your brother, I think the Empatigos,
Yeah, Empatego, so
that idea is really good.
extremely good.
Yeah.
People will definitely come to that because they were.
Now they can steal this. These other festivals, they can beat us to the punch. It is what it is.
The
But
thing
I
is,
think-
because we talked to in 2016, and I think it was the last one, 2016. Mark was there from Empatego. I mean, Mark's one of the old heads. He's still in this metal scene. How do I know? He literally will place orders at Hell's Headbangers. He's just a regular, humble dude that just had a cult classic band. The reason Empatego is so
everybody had
legendary.
that tape. Everybody.
Well, the
got
reason
that
they're so
tape. That was
legendary
like-
is literally to this day, nobody sounds like them.
Yeah,
Nobody.
yeah.
And they just did 2 releases.
And the tape was every parent that found their kid with that tape and that fucking tape. Like my mother was so fucking just disgusted. And actually, I heard and I don't know if this is true. We should, when you have him on your channel, you should ask him. I heard that the poor like little old ladies that were stuffing the J covers in the cassettes. I think at the time they were like producing them in Honduras or Mexico or somewhere in Central America, and they were so freaked out.
Oh, by the cover, yeah, okay.
And they were like doing the rosary and people like walked out. I don't know if that's true, but I'm like,
I never heard that. I don't know.
That's
Yeah,
a
yeah.
great story.
Well, yeah, that would be something because you're never going to see them. Like, I've never seen Empatego. They did one reunion show. There's a official live disc out. What year was it? I think 2010. It was like an anniversary.
Yeah, where was that?
Chicago.
Okay, yeah.
And they did it there, and I almost even went. It was Jim from Nunslaughter, rest in peace. He was going, invited me out to go with them, and I don't remember what the fuck happened. Is your audio still good?
No, yeah, we're good. I was like, the battery better not die.
Yeah,
It's
better
so
not
good.
fuck die.
Yeah.
I missed it, but that was the last time that they've ever played. And
Okay.
there's because especially any of the younger people or whatever, there's no way they know that you're never going to see them. Like so that's
No.
it's going to
Did
draw
Empa-
because that's a once in a lifetime opportunity to see them.
Did Empatego ever? Did they ever tour and like? Did they ever have like a scene of bands around them? Like
See, to my knowledge, no.
Yeah.
I don't know that, but that to my knowledge, no.
And I'm sorry, I say all the band names wrong. Breweria. Dino was just breaking my balls about how I say Breweria wrong, but that was another tape. That was like that cover freaked people the fuck out. But that was like the appeal of the death metal shit back then. And I like that all these kid bands, like there's fucking like 17-year-old kid bands out here playing brutal death metal that sounds like it came out in the late 80s and early 90s. And I think that's an awesome thing. And I want to foster whatever relationships I can and help them, come play the fest and have fun because, and I'm sure people on your channel will think this is gay or whatever, but I never had so many.
50-50. No,
I never had so many hugs in my life on a festival and so many smiles and people thanking me. And I'm like, don't thank me, thank Sound Talent, thank the rave. Everybody was open to all the different ideas, and I get the criticism. And shout out to everybody on your channel who defended me and left positive comments, and even the ones that were super critical. they weren't unfair. They were just a lot of them was constructive.
Well, what if some of these people, again, it reminds me that they're 18 or 19, and I keep telling people this too, no matter what bands I bust their balls, whether it be Pantera and shit like that, I was like, they take it a little bit too seriously. Like, you guys got to remember, I'm talking about the music of what I like and what I don't like. I'm not talking about the people themselves.
But
they get a little hateful. I'm like, I don't, like, because I busted Garza's balls more times than I could count on the channel, and I keep telling him, I was like, I'd go on his podcast, and I told him, we exchanged numbers. But I told him even the comments, I was like, I don't dislike the guy. He might be very, very cool, and he was very nice. I was like, I just say we don't have the same musical taste, and I think it'd be cool to almost have a debate and duck it out, and maybe he'll learn stuff or not learn stuff, or tell me that I suck.
And I actually think that that's going to be like a strength for this festival, is that we won't gatekeep any of that stuff. I'll have Thy Art Is Murder. I'll have Whitechapel. I'll have Suicide Silence. I doubt they would ever do that at Maryland Death Fest, because it would be a fucking flame war on all their pages. But I can do that and get away with it and still have Nun Slaughter and fucking Profanatica, or what? How do you say it?
Profanatica.
Yeah. And Impetigo and fucking all these bands, and probably make it work and have it be peaceful and have it be fun, because that's how it is at the European festivals and how it is at a lot of the South American festivals.
And shit, it's totally different. Hellfest, yes, it's totally. See, I think the way I look at it too, because some people are like, well, what the hell, J-dawg, you hate stuff like Whitechapel and stuff like that. I'm like, let's call it like it is. Hell's Headbangers has over 50,000 titles in stock.
Yeah.
Do you think I like everything we sell?
Right.
No. I was like, what it is, when I go to a fest or decide I want to go, I look at what bands, is there enough bands I want to see? If there's 10 or so, cool. And the bands I don't like, I'm just not going to watch. Yeah. I'm not upset that they're there, because at the end of the day, to make these possible, it's a business too, and it's got to be profitable. So what some of these dummies don't realize, if it's not profitable, then you can't do it. Meaning you can't see the bands you do like. And not to mention, if there's 80 bands playing, who the fuck even has the energy or the ear power to watch every single one of them?
Right.
So you get a little bit of break, go take a smoke, go get a beer, go talk to your buds, go buy some merch. So who gives a fuck if there's some bands you don't like?
Yeah.
That's the way I look at it.
Back to Sodom, in the 90s, like when Diabolos came out and Slayer was going like...
Oh, dude, I remember that Diabolos album all the time.
They went a little new metal, and like all my real staunch like thrash, old school thrash fans, like the guys who are older than me, like all the Waterbury guys, shout out to Sean Martin, they were not feeling it. Sodom, I think around the same time, or maybe a year before or a year after, dropped Code Red, and they were doing Slayer better than Slayer. And I always respected Sodom for that, because they were one of those bands. And I know some people will say, no, there was a sidestep here or there, but there wasn't as much of a sidestep.
From what I understand, I don't know Sodom's whole catalog, but I know guys, shout out to Scott from Cyanide. He had a debate with, it was Don and Scott. Probably the favorite video I ever recorded, right? It was the three of us talking it out. And Scott said, I think there's only one record that he doesn't like by Sodom that he said was kind of a turd. He was like, other than that, it was all good. I don't know the whole catalog,
which one it
but
is.
I gotta say, I never heard anything.
It might be Code Red.
No, it's definitely not that one.
Okay.
Because I think it was Better Off Dead.
Okay,
he said. It's like, I don't know their whole catalog, but I gotta say, everything I heard by Sodom, I thought was pretty solid.
Yeah.
I think it's all. I mean, I never heard anything that I thought sucked.
Yeah. Well, I really appreciate you guys coming and venting at the fest. And I think every mail order that's out there, and everybody who's getting metal records, no matter what subgenre it is, anybody who's getting metal records into kids' hands, I want to support, and thank you for coming. And before we get out of here, I guess just hit me with a couple more ideas, like for the wish list. And I've learned a lot this year, and I don't want all the black metal bands to feel excluded. I got a lot of thanks from people Friday night for having Revenge. I think that was a good move. Mm-hmm. I know they just got announced on the Texas show. But yeah, I guess if you could start with the black metal and then maybe choose 4 aside from the ones you've already said, and then maybe 4 of the old school death metal.
So I don't know if I'll get 4 from each, but I'll just give you some ideas that I think, if you can make them happen, cool. And that's stuff that I would want to see, and stuff not only that I want to see, but I know that would also draw. So what I mentioned, Satanic War Master, that would be awesome. And then also too was I said my Carcass idea. I said this on the channel, an episode. I gave them an idea. Nobody wants to hear fucking new Carcass songs for the most part. Carcass has never done this in history. We want you to do it. It becomes trendy, so it's not out of the discussion. DSI just did that tour, the entire Legion album. Yep. Mayhem did the entire De Mysterious. Morbid Angel did the entire Covenant album. It's becoming kind of a popular here, a whole album in its entirety. Malevolent Creation did Retribution. Carcass needs to do the entire Reeker Putrefaction album front to back. Why that one? Well, number one, that's where Gore Grind started. Number two, even going all the way back to '88, they've never played every single song off that album. Even never, ever. And I know because I have tons of bootleg recordings and shit. So you hear when they're playing the UK, just a brand new band. And that would be so cool, and you're never going to be able to capture. They got to get the pitch shifters and shit like that, and I think it's doable because it's still Bill and Jeff who did the vocals. Play that entire album front to back and fill off the set with like 3 or 4 songs off symphonies. So it's first 2 albums that all the old heads, everybody loves. Now, they're probably going to want a bigger price tag on that.
Sure.
But I can't imagine anybody that was an old school Carcass fan, because the thing is the newer fans like it too, that wouldn't want to come see that. And they're never going to do that again. So that idea. So there's that. Like we talked about, Destroyer 666.
Yeah.
They are the number 2 band next to Hemorrhage that on my bucket list I want to see. I know Draw, and that that's
and they live it. They're no nonsense. It is what it is. They are what you see, and I love that.
Well, what's cool about them is they kind of draw in crowds. I think that's partially why their popularity is because the black metal guys like them, the thrash metal guys like them, and the death metal guys like them.
The Motorhead dudes
yeah,
like
exactly,
them.
because it's kind of got that mix of it all. It's not just pure of one. It's like a fucking mixed bag.
Yeah.
So, so their fan base is for that. So that's, and all the underground heads are going to want to, fucking see that.
Yeah.
Another new band, we actually work with them a little bit. We haven't done all their stuff or nothing like that, but I talk about all the time. The only thing is, I don't even know if they do shows, but they're blowing up in popularity very quickly. Their first album just came out in 2020. It's a band from Japan called Pharmacist.
Okay.
And speaking of Carcass, it's pure Carcass worship, but the thing is, they're writing really good, memorable songs that literally sounds like if Carcass never put out Necroticism, just stayed on the path of symphonies after, that's what it sounds like.
Nice.
But not just like a direct ripoff.
Okay.
And even their whole image and everything on their albums, their covers and shit, it all has the same aesthetic. You can tell that that's just 100% what they're going for.
Cool.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah, I think for me, I definitely, I hope we can make Nunslaughter happen. They're one of the ones that I really respect who have slugged it out.
Yeah, I mean, I could, especially if all this stuff's happening, I know we're going to do it, I could talk to Don. I mean, I talk to Don all the time.
Well, I think the bands that have slugged it out who really, put out split after split.
Oh, yeah.
And they have a huge catalog of songs.
The only band I think that has more releases than Nunslaughter, I'm pretty sure, is a Gothicles.
Oh, yeah, I remember
Possibly Sabat from Japan. Actually, that'd be really cool, too.
That'd be a great one.
Sabat, Metal Lucifer from Japan, because you can almost get it, because Gezal does both. That's almost a 2-1 combo. I've never seen either, and I would love to. And they have their cult following. Metal Lucifer is just pure cheeseball heavy metal that's just so great that how can you not like it? And then Sabat is just it's classic black metal from Japan.
Yeah.
And they definitely, they've been to the States, but not many times at all.
Here's a sidestep, and people can flame me all they want, but Running Wild before they went full pirate.
Right. Oh, dude. Gates to Purgatory is my favorite record out of Germany of all time.
So good. And I've played their drummer's venue and was freaking out. My other band covered Soldiers of Hell for our second album, my band I did with Kirk from Crowbar, and I think they're open to it. So I do think we need some classic sort of more straight ahead metal. I mean, I love the bands like Accept and all that's like the metal churches, and they have a place too, but people have seen those, whereas Running Wild,
again, we can make these, you can make that as a thing. Well, people want to see, I thought Anthrax did a really good job last night playing oldies to give these people attention. Metal Church, what would be cool? Play the whole first album.
Yeah.
Like, who wouldn't want to see that?
I know.
Like, to me, I've always said it. I was like, if aliens came down from outer space and said, what's heavy metal? And if I had to just I was like, just listen to the fucking first Metal Church. That's what the fuck it is. And that's what describes it.
I got to give Mark a shout out because I was checking out live videos of Ross the Boss at Hell's Heroes, and like one of my favorite Manowar songs, Kill with Power, he's fucking crushing with Ross the Boss. And then I heard that he was singing for Metal Church, and Kurt and him came on my podcast, and they stuck to their guns. They said, no, we're doing Reggie's. We were already committed to that. So I'm never going to try to like poach bands from another festival or another thing. Like if they have their club show, that was the reason why we couldn't do Possessed. Like Reggie's wasn't going to let Possessed come and play Milwaukee, so close. And shout out to Jeff, and Possessed is always welcome. They're a big part of the old fest.
Of course.
And the old heads want them. But that would be a great one, to have them do 7 churches in their entirety, or have
maybe Exodus, Tired Bonded by Blood.
Yeah, exactly.
Because people will want to see that. Even
yeah.
myself, because I hear Exodus, I'm like, dude, most of these albums I don't even know.
I'm diehard Exodus. Like, I like Tempo of the Dam. I love Shovel-Headed Kill Machine. I had Rob here signing all weekend. He came out and bonded with me at the pre-party. But no, these are all really good ideas. Thank you everybody for checking out.
One last thing I do want to say, just because I get on the thing, is you mentioned having Deicide.
Yeah.
One thing that would be like, is a guaranteed I'm coming, is my bucket list of all-time #1 people I want to interview is Glenn Benton.
You got to, yeah.
So that's my
He'll do
number
it.
one of it.
He's so cool and so just chill. He'll do it.
Because I know the only person that you're gonna be able to make it happen is you.
No, he would do it, honestly.
Dude, I don't know. I met him twice, and it was like pulling teeth.
Yeah?
I had to grab him by the shoulder and turn him around for a fucking photo, literally.
Yeah.
Yeah. So he's like, and took it left. But,
well,
yeah.
they're up on the Mount Rushmore for. But again, I'm open to all suggestions, and thank you everybody who came, and thanks so much to Hell's Headbangers giving us the comps for the swag bags and helping promote the show. When you guys posted, we saw a nice bump in tickets. And we're there.
Sweet.
We're here. We're there. You know, we're here. We did it. We're back. Friday, Dark Angel. I was like a kid in the candy shop. and yeah, I think the future's bright. And anytime we can help you, you let us know. And Glenn Benton on Justin's channel. Let's make it happen. Thanks, everybody.
Later, devils.
Thanks, Justin.